Hey everyone, how's it going? Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com. Welcome to the NoDQ panel. I am being joined by the panelists, our usual panel guests, thankfully wearing t-shirts. First up we have
What?
good old... What?
Don't make me start stripping on the air, Aaron.
Do it. I dare you.
Fuck.
No.
Okay, don't start me, boss.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you were serious there for a minute. So
Hey, dude.
Anyways, good old JM Jeff Meacham.
Yes, I'm here.
The West Coast professor, also being joined by the
two-time trivia champion, by the way.
Two-time trivia champion. The greatest columnist in the history of NoDQ.com and the entire
Although Aaron,
galaxy.
we're in the era of videos, so am I going to have to start turning those columns into a video show? I don't know. We need good feedback. We need a lot of viewers in order to make that happen.
Well, yeah, Virtue's Rage. Why not Virtue's Rant?
Maybe even if they're short ones, like little 10-minute ones.
There you go.
Experiment. Think outside the box. But anyways, we are also being joined by our special panel guest today, Malik. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good, Aaron Riff. It's an honor to be on your panel for the first time.
It's an honor to have you on. We've been trying to get you on. I've been in contact with you through email for the past several weeks. We've been trying to work out everyone's schedules. So it's great to finally have you on today. And what a topic today. We're going to be talking about the worst Attitude Era moments. This might be a controversial video because a lot of fans out there remember the Attitude Era very fondly. Many would consider it to be the peak of professional wrestling's popularity. I think that's a very, very safe thing to say because wrestling was at its highest peak in terms of ratings, attendance was way up, but not everything about the Attitude Era was great. I mean, people reflect on it very fondly, but there were some things that were not so good. A lot of things, actually. So, Virtue, I know you recently posted a column from somebody regarding the Attitude Era. Anything you want to say regarding that?
Yeah, my buddy Vengeance wrote an open letter to the Attitude Era, and of course I posted it as Virtue's Rage. You know, he was a guest. You can find that in the opinion section on NoDQ.com. I'm going to read you one small paragraph, and then Aaron can continue.
I'll link it.
This is to the Attitude Era. You changed the face of professional wrestling. Attitude Era. You made wrestling grow up and continue to impact it to this day. But for an old school guy like me, who is my buddy Vengeance, you went a little too far at times and turned me off. You changed wrestling and forced fans to either change with it or be left in the dust. And although I'm still a fan of wrestling, in and of itself, I'm also man enough to realize that I was one of those left in the dust. So let's now dive into the worst moments of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, we will talk about some specific things, but I just wanted to mention, in my opinion, I think the worst thing, even though we got some awesome moments like the Hell in a Cell match, Mankind and The Undertaker, the ladder matches, the TLC matches, I think the biggest problem was that it set the bar too high and guys were taking too many risks and it got to the point where people were getting seriously hurt. And then, of course, the whole Owen Hart thing, because WWE and WCW were trying to compete so much to the point where guys were taking unnecessary risks and people were really getting hurt. And that's where it draws the line for me personally. You know, wrestling should be about suspending disbelief and making it seem real without it actually be real. And I think that some of those injuries were just too real.
Yeah, there's no way anybody sitting in front of your computer screen right now can tell me there was any reason for Owen Hart to be in that harness in 1999 or even to this day now. Yeah. There is no reason for a wrestler to be suspended 70 feet in the air, whatever it was, and doing a stunt. They're not stunt men. They're not trained to do that crap.
Do you say the same for Sting?
I say well, okay. The thing with Sting was they even said this in various books. Sting was so strapped into those harnesses, it took him 10 minutes to get the straps off before he even attacked anybody with the bat. Owen Hart was in a thing that was rigged for sailboat immediate loosenings. There is no reason for that. I mean, Sting, seriously, when Sting came down from the rafters or from the helicopter or whatever it was, he was so entangled and stuff, it took him 10 minutes to get unwrapped. That's the difference.
Yeah. They were just doing so many crazy stunts that I'm surprised more people did not get seriously hurt because of all the stunts being done during that period.
Well, when you think about long-term, I'm sure Malik will agree with me, long-term impact of the Attitude Era, guys like the dreaded B word, Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
You know, he got hurt real bad 2001, 2002, the concussion and the neck injury that he was driven to what happened to him. I'm not justifying and saying it was right that what he did, but the schedule and the injuries in the Attitude Era are direct lead into what happened to him and his family.
And also, like I said, Chris Benoit for years, even before he came to WWE, the constant headbutts off the rope, the chair shots, headbutts. I mean, he just kept doing that constantly, and it wasn't necessary. So eventually it would lead to him, the brain trauma and the damage. And, of course, he just snapped somewhere deep inside.
Yeah, all the chair shots to the head. I mean, during the Attitude Era, they were rampant. You were seeing them all the time. Vince you remember Unforgiven right after WrestleMania 14 when Steve Austin hit Vince right in the head with that chair? I mean, that was intense, and a lot of those guys were taking those kind of chair shots.
Well, I mean, think about it. Stone Cold himself said there was a chair shot in 2001 where Vince hit Austin in the back of the head and cut a little thing right here in the back of his head. Austin, to this day, cannot shave his head without avoiding that spot and having to be so ginger with it because he said it's a constant bleeder when he shaves his head. I mean, that's so stupid to think about. That's a direct cause of the Attitude Era, but it really is.
Yeah, and think about like The Rock and Mankind, that match at the '99 Rumble, which I was at.
Which all we were there,
unprotected chair shots. And, at the time, nobody really knew about the effects of concussions, and now looking back, you wonder, like, what were these guys thinking back then? I mean, at what point do you say the line needs to stop and you don't do things that are going to jeopardize the well-being of the performers long term?
Aaron, there was competition and there were ratings. There was a ratings war, and by any means necessary, wrestling became television shows, and we got writers. So from that aspect, it's cool. Bring in casual people that don't like wrestling. But I think what happened is, in order to bring in that crowd, a lot of the true wrestling fans and people in the business, Jim Cornette, it created a rift, so to speak. And it really did. And a lot of bad things did happen in a great era.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned the 99 Rumble. I think the biggest casualty of the entire Attitude Era was Aaron Riff's popcorn.
Yes, that's true. So for those of you that don't know,
Stone Cold and Vince spilled Aaron's popcorn on the way up the aisle there.
Yep.
Go back and look at the video. Aaron Riff's in that video.
Yeah, right by the guy that had the sign, "I'm a hardcore porn champ." That was one of the signs.
What? Yeah. I forgot about that because I'm so focused on you.
And I better censor myself on that comment because then we'll get in trouble with
hardcore
YouTube.
Adult film champ.
Yeah, exactly. Now there were some specific booking decisions that were not very well done, and not the kind of segments where people were getting hurt, but just segments that were poorly written and poorly thought out and really didn't help characters that much. Now, Malik, I want to ask you, in your opinion, what would you say was the worst storyline or angle that was done during the Attitude Era, in your own personal opinion?
Like I said, I would have to say the Mark Henry crossdresser incident.
Yep,
I understand people, like 2 girls or 3 girls at one time, but at the time, before the LGBT thing today, that I think for wrestling was ill-advised. And then to take him into the bathroom, he goes, "Oh, you got a so and so," and he's throwing up. I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" Now
sweet Jesus,
that was ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, that was just that was a little too much. And then see, kids back then were watching the show Kids, so see that'll traumatize kids and parents.
They were cutting to shots of the crowd, and people were just shocked that they would do a segment like that. That wasn't too good for Mark Henry's career. Definitely prevented him from having any kind of real credibility. And what about the hand with Mae Young? The whole segment there.
Just as ridiculous. That was ill-advised. That was, and then about 20 years later at WrestleMania, you had a guy in a hand costume show up. Well, hey,
Raw 1000. Yep, Raw 1000.
Yeah.
I remember
that was a stupid angle
yeah.
then, and I never liked it. I think Vince was the only person that found it funny. I don't know.
Well, it's funny.
Why would you do it now 20 or 30 years later and have a guy in a hand costume?
Well, this is coming from Vince McMahon brought in the Gobbledygooker as a surprise guest at a Survivor Series.
That's true. Yeah.
Anything is possible, right? That's what they always say.
That's for sure.
Anything can happen in the WWF is what they always said. Yep.
And anything did happen, and that was a problem. I mean, GTV, Val Venus.
Oh, GTV. Oh, my God. And it went nowhere. GTV went nowhere.
Yeah.
I was ticked about that. I really was.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to know.
I
assumed Gold Dust, but I think it technically started as GDTV.
Yeah, he left the company. He left.
Yeah.
And then they kept it going, but they never had a game plan.
Yeah.
They never had a game plan on how to finish the angle, so it just fizzled out and never went anywhere. So that was definitely a big disappointment. What about all the stuff with the Big Boss Man, his storylines? First, he had the storyline with Al Snow, which I actually liked the segment where Al Snow had his dog Pepper and Big Boss Man cooked the dog for dinner.
I remember that, yeah.
That
was funny, yeah, but it was a little squeamish too, yeah. And he said, now here it goes. I want you to eat this. And all of a sudden he's eating. He goes, it's 100% grade A pepper. And all of a sudden, whoa. And I'm thinking he actually cooked pepper. I'm like, oh my goodness.
I actually enjoyed that. I was entertained by it, but the thing that it led to was the infamous Kennel for Hell match, which may be one of the worst WWE matches of all time. I mean, you guys remember that one with the dogs out
Dogs
there?
were pooping on the outside of the ring. I mean, that's what was happening.
They were trying to give their opinion of the match, and the storyline.
It's just so bad. When you think back on the history of these two guys, both Mick Foley and Al Snow are defined by a cell match.
Yeah. One for good cell match.
One for not so good. Yeah.
Well,
terrible.
What are your thoughts on, speaking of Boss Man, he got hung from the cage. I mean, that's like
that was terrible.
You could never do something like that today. Like,
oh no,
you couldn't do it back then, Virtue.
They did.
But
though.
they did.
Yeah, I mean, just poor Boss Man, and I don't know how that was rigged up, but he was still turning pretty red.
Yeah, he was.
Well, it was just so funny. Michael Cole is just reacting like, oh my, and then you can hear the headset go quiet because Vince is going, shh, don't say anything else.
We hear the crowd going quiet. They have no idea that they see this and they think some guy's really dying there. I mean,
it's awful. Well, it's funny. You mentioned Big Boss Man 99. How about the feud with the Big Show?
Yes.
That was awful.
The funeral, the cemetery.
Yeah,
it was funnier than hell. Don't get me wrong. But goodness gracious, was that an awful feud.
Well, a lot of people think it was in bad taste with the whole cancer.
It was.
Yeah. Refresh my memory, Jeff. Did Big Show jump on the casket as it was getting dragged away?
Yeah. The boss man rigged the boss man rigged the casket to a tow pull, and it was towing the casket with his father in it. And Big Show jumped on it. He dragged for a little bit, and then you see Big Show fall off it. He does a Pratt fall. He literally flips onto his head and over. It's like, oh my God, Paul. Oh really? Oh dear God. Yeah. It was so bad.
It was entertaining though, but then they had to actually wrestle, and I think that match they had at Armageddon was another terrible match. Bossman didn't exactly have the best year in terms of wrestling matches.
Well, there was a reason Big Show had the big Survivor Series moment because his father had just died, and they had the whole segment with Boss Man. But then he had a dominant Survivor Series that year where he won the match 4-on-1 pretty much, and then won the title. But you got to remember, does anybody really remember Big Show's first WWF Championship reign for anything other than the Boss Man feud and the job of Triple H on the first Raw 2000? We don't, because it was a horrible reign.
Yeah, it was pretty much only happening because Steve Austin got hurt and they had to change the match to Survivor Series.
Speaking of Steve Austin, how about the Rikishi reveal? How bad was that?
That was pretty bad. I had high hopes for that when Austin came back that they were going to do some storyline. And then, they basically took Rikishi, a guy who was red hot at the time as a babyface, and they turned him heel. It really made no sense whatsoever. They tried to explain it, saying, well, Rikishi was there. He was starting out in the company around the time, and they tried to explain he did it for The Rock. That's the famous line.
Yeah.
But
I did it for the people.
I did it for the people. Yeah.
Weren't you at the Raw at Anaheim when they revealed him, Aaron?
I was not there for that.
I was there. Man, you hear the crowd just go, what?
Yeah.
Like, really? Rikishi? Yeah, it was. It
should have been Triple H all along. I mean, it really should have been Triple H.
And Rikishi, he's so fun loving. You know what I mean? The whole, and too cool and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is, even when he was revealed as as Austin's attacker, later Austin turned bad, joined Triple H, and they became the 2-man power trip.
How stupid was that?
That didn't make any sense because that happened in like in a span of like maybe 2 or 3 months, 2 months with so it's like, so some angles kind of came at us with no sense, with no explanation. Okay, you didn't finish this angle, but you started this one over here. Nothing in between.
Well, No Way Out.
Yeah, seriously. I was gonna say, Triple H and Austin had this amazing 3 stages of matches at No Way Out, and then literally less than 2 months later, they're on the same side.
Yeah, and that was really right when the Attitude Era was ending, once WCW was sold.
Right.
Here's one for you. I just thought of one, Aaron. I was so worried about, because I was a big Attitude Era fan, and I was so worried about, well, I get why they did these things. I don't know if I can say any of them were bad. Obviously, you all know I'm a big Jericho fan. He's probably my number 1A. I liked China wrestling guys like Jeff Jarrett and Jericho. I was for that because it really helped China. It really pushed women. Hey, we can compete with men. But the hammer to the thumb on Raw.
Man, that was awful.
That could have been, it was so goofy. I got it, but did it resonate with people? It was kind of like, really, Jericho? That's what you did?
I think an entire IC title feud between Jericho and China was so hokey because they were co-champions, weren't they at one point, Aaron?
Yeah, they were. That whole storyline was a bit of a mess.
It was bad.
And then all of a sudden they were friends, and then China turned against him and joined with
Well,
Eddie.
I heard
Vince
didn't trust Jericho yet because he was from WCW,
well,
and that was kind of Vince testing Chris, I think.
Yeah, I think at the time, they were. I believe like you said, they were trying to test him out, and they weren't really sold on Jericho yet because he was a WCW guy.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's weird funny how WWE works.
A lot of this stuff we're talking about is 1999. Like 98 was the best year they had on the Attitude Era. A year later, they're booking Crap Fest again.
There's some bad stuff in '98.
And the hammer bit, Russo was already gone, by the way.
Yep,
that is true. Russo was gone.
Let's make that clear, guys. Russo didn't book that, despite people saying.
Well, '98 wasn't perfect. I mean, you had the Brawl for All, which was a big disaster. We did talk about that recently on the NoDQ panel about how Steve Williams was supposed to be the next big thing in WWE. They were going to give him a big push, and then he got knocked out by Bart
the heck out,
and in turn Bart Gunn got knocked out by Butterbean.
And if one star would have came out of that, like if Bart would have beat Butterbean, like Jeff had mentioned, it would have made that somewhat tolerable, that Brawl for All. But the fact is, Bart got beat badly.
Yeah.
Dude, his head is still spinning.
Yeah, the Brawl for All was one of the weak points in '98. What about Hawk and the whole storyline with the Legion of Doom
we kind of touched on that in a previous panel, kind of, sort of, but yeah, the whole Hawk getting drunk, the whole LOD breakup period after they broke up in '97 and they got it back together in '98. That entire run of LOD 2000 all the way to the end where Hawk got released for real or whatever. That was.
And they tried to bring in Sonny as their manager, but Sonny was having her own personal problems.
The thing is, on the Road Warriors DVD, which I still watch, Hawk agreed to the storyline because someone asked him if he wanted to do a storyline based on his real life demons, and he said, "No, I'll do it." And Animal suggested, "Hey, man, this is going to bring up some real life trouble if you do this," but he wanted to do it.
Yeah. And the problem is that there was no conclusion. He was there. Ellering turned against them. That was another thing.
I remember that. Yeah, he did. He came back and he tried against them, and he had a new team, DOA. Remember that? DOA.
Yeah,
because Sonny, I think, got released from WWE, went back to ECW with Chris, and then they brought Paul in to manage the LOD, and then the last second they went, no, we're gonna have to Paul turn on and join the DOA. We were like, what? It was bad.
Some things you just don't mess with,
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
And like I said, there's never any real solution to that angle.
Nope.
Also, going back to Chris Jericho, I think Vince trusted Chris Jericho because look at the entrance they had built up for him. That whole countdown, that was awesome. That was his best appearance.
I'll give you my knowledge on that. Just so you know, that was all Jericho. That was a little bit of Vince Russo and Kevin Dunn. Those were the guys. I think Vince McMahon just said, bring Jericho in how you see fit. I really think that he didn't have too much to do with that debut. I think it was Jericho himself, Kevin Dunn, and Vince Russo.
Well, yeah, because Jericho mentioned in his book even that, they were trying to convey what they're going to do with Chris, and he was in the post office seeing the Millennium Clock. That'd be a good idea for a debut. Wait a minute,
and Jim Johnston. I think Jim Johnston did that song for Jericho. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jericho went to Jim and said, "Here's what I want," and Jim said, "All right, let's write." And they wrote it out. He goes, "Perfect." Yeah.
I heard the Millennium song. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the Millennium Man, Chris Jericho was like 85. Everybody else, maybe
we're
less
talking
than
about
15
worst
Vince.
moments in Attitude Era history.
What
that was one of the best.
What about Goldust being the preacher in '98 when he was feuding with Val Venus? What about Val Venus? Because Val Venus was an interesting character. He had some entertaining moments, but I mean, did you guys like the whole Yamaguchi thing with the choppy?
That's what.
No,
that's what I want to mention. Yeah,
no,
John Wayne Bobbitt.
I choppy your pee. That went too far.
Dude, and what's funny? They had this great light heavyweight start with the tournament and everything, and Taka Michinoku being the champion, and they turned him heel and joined Kai and Tai. It was very confusing.
I, for one, didn't think that was bad because the fact that Val was a porn star and he's supposed to have this, member. I actually thought that with the heel Kai and Tai, I thought that was okay.
That was okay, and the thing is, Taka's turn led to partnering with Kai and Tai, which led to. It was hokey. It was bad, but it was still very funny. The Indeed stuff with Kai and Tai, that was funny. I thought.
But like when I hear "I choppy your PP," like to me that's iconic, and not necessarily in a bad way. That was the Attitude Era. Right. Now, granted, some people aren't going to like stuff like that. I get it.
Okay, here's one that I've been trying to avoid saying the actual S word. How about the Rock's feud with the British Bulldog, where he literally got rock bottom on a pile of crap?
Yeah, I remember that. That was also after Russo left.
Yes.
So not everything was
really?
Russo. Yeah, it was. It was like 2 weeks after Russo left.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember the Rock and the Bulldog were kind of half feeding when the Bulldog came back, and he had Foley shoveling the poop into a pile. And like this big old like table of poop, and the Rock bottom. It was like,
well, Vince has this obsession with poop. I mean, he literally likes toilet humor. I mean, remember when Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe had the evening gown match and the skid marks on Pat Patterson's underwear?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
That was nasty. Yeah. Oh, and also years ago, even post Attitude, the Spirit Squad. Remember the Spirit Squad? Him and Shane McMahon on the thing.
They did it for years.
Shawn and Triple H were imitating the McMahons.
That's like a running gag. Vince loves.
They're trying to do slapstick comedy, but the problem is WWE.
Yeah, running gag, all right.
They've never done slapstick comedy well. It's always been like Bush League slapstick comedy,
Yeah.
And well, actually, some of it, to me, some of it was funny. Like, of course, the DX spoofs were hilarious. The Nation Domination, hilarious. The Corporation,
that was good. Right,
hilarious.
Here's one for you. This is probably the worst. And Aaron, is this the Attitude Era? I know this was post Russo. Katie Vick.
Yeah,
that was already in.
That was the worst in my
That's
opinion.
what I mentioned. The Aaron too. Yeah,
that was already brand extension era, but it was still the worst thing they ever did.
Yeah, so we can mention that too.
Yeah, I would
might as well. Yeah,
I wouldn't have done a pedophilia in a coffin. That was way outside the box.
I will give Katie Vick credit for one thing: the debut, Jeff Meacham on the internet.
That is true.
Without that angle, the original audio show would have never happened.
Exactly. So, that's what motivated Jeff and his co-host to go on and talk trash about that angle, and that's what that started Extreme Mayhem, which led to XMV, which led to Talk Wrestling, which led to NoDQ Video, which led to this. So there you go.
So there you go. Yeah. So we'll give him props. Yeah.
Yeah. Give him some props for coming up with some really bad television.
And you know what? Just to make sure we give the right person credit, Jericho invented that. Anyway. He really didn't, but we're just going to say that.
Yeah, Jericho invented. Whenever you're not sure, Jericho invented it.
That's right. But no, trust me, Vince himself owned that on the DVD and the McMahon DVD. He's like, I thought it was funny. His entire family was like, what? No. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, in 90, let's go back to 99 because there is a lot of bad material in 99. They were just, Vince Russo was coming up with a lot of creative stuff. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But, remember PMS and Meat. Sean Stasiak is Meat. So when Test beat Meat and all these different guys beat Meat, get the joke, ha. Yeah, that was pretty lame. And Beaver Cleavage with Headbanger Mosh, which lasted, 2 weeks?
Beaver Cleavage and his mom, who was younger than Beaver Cleavage.
Yeah, I guess that was supposed to be the joke there. But, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of lame gimmicks. I mean, Virtue, you're pretty quiet right now. Did you enjoy those segments?
I actually, on the beaver cleavage one, no. I was kind of like, what was going on? What was this? And that was before I was too privy onto, who was writing this and stuff. I tried to suspend my disbelief, and that was the whole the wrestling sites were getting big right around there in the Attitude Era.
How many guys do you think beat meat during that period?
But you know what, though? I was actually, that didn't bother me, because to me, again, that was the raunchy humor. The thing is, I'm a Stasiak fan, and I'm just kind of upset that it didn't work out for him. And I don't know, we're trying to get him on one of our podcasts. I guess he's a great chiropractor these days.
He really is. Well, when was Planet Stasiak? When was that?
That was 2002. That was post-Attitude
Era. All right.
Yeah, Stasiak spent some of his recent time trolling people or responding to trolls on NoDQ's group.
It's so funny. He was on Xbox podcast and talked about that. He wants to do podcasts again, but so many people despise him that he spent an entire podcast career just dodging the trolls.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is more of a general criticism of the Attitude Era, and that's all the title changes. I'll ask you guys, each one of you, do you think there were too many title changes with the titles being hot potatoes? Virtue?
Too many for the Intercontinental, for sure. I think the Intercontinental title lost its steam in the Attitude Era. It's the WWF title. I still think that was okay. I know they did a lot of back and forth, like with Mick Foley, Rock, and all that.
That's how I feel
about
that.
But the IC title to me was like way too many champions. I mean, all the undercard, mid-card had it. It seemed like.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think like it was kind of cool in a way that Foley and The Rock were trading back and forth with the wins, because it felt like they're both equally good, and they're playing this tug of war with the title. So I actually did like the fact that they kept going back and forth for that period. What do you think?
But they had the European title too, guys. Don't forget about that. That was
the hardcore title. What did you think, Malik?
I thought to me the most title that was hot potato. Do y'all remember the hardcore title?
Yeah,
I know where you're going with this, and I'll let you finish. But I thought that was good stuff, because it wasn't a major belt. Let's face it. I like that 24/7 rule, the Molly Holly
that was
part.
Entertaining.
But okay, go ahead. I'm interested. Like, do you think it was bad?
No, I mean it was just funny. I mean it was bad, but it was entertaining. But yeah, there was hot potato. With the Intercontinental belt, I think the world title belt a lot of times, and I think sometimes even the tag team belts. But to me, I think the worst was the hardcore belt, because it got so comical. Had him running around 24/7 rule. The referee got the belt. Briscoe got the belt at one time. Pat Patterson got the belt at one time, and I think Ivory got the belt at one time, because I think one of them came up saying,
didn't they end up in the river, in the Mississippi River or something like that?
I'm okay. That was
with
entertaining. That was before they did the 24/7 rule. But the thing is, like at WrestleMania, what was it, 16, right, Jeff? Where they had the
2000,
title change.
I was there. Yes,
How many
sir.
times did that title change hands on that show?
In 15 minutes, there was like a dozen or more changes in one match.
Yeah, so I mean, it was getting a bit silly by that point. But yeah, I liked the stuff with like Crash Holly playing in the ball pit. And when he retained the title, I liked it better rather than just having the title changes all the time.
All I know is I have a distinct memory in my head when you brought up the title changes of Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Year in Review 99. They have a picture of the WWF champion and the WCW champion. And they said, whatever the double digit was, is the amount of times the belt changed hands this year. They talk about the title changes in 99 for both companies. What about the WCW title in 2000? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That belt, you talk about hot potato.
Can't we say that was still the Attitude Era? We don't have to say it was WWF only. I mean, it was
WCW's wannabe Attitude Era.
No, it's funny. The ECW title even. Shane Douglas was the champion when the Attitude Era started. After him is bing, 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 bing. So there you go.
I mean, you could say in a way the Attitude Era in WWE maybe helped WCW decline faster, you could say, because they were trying to copy WWF. Instead of trying to do something different and be an alternative, WCW is trying to be a watered down WWF with the Attitude Era, and that continued their demise at a faster rate.
It's funny. Vince Russo himself has said that he was trying to apply the WWF form at WCW. The problem is the WWF at the time was privately owned, not publicly traded, while WCW was under a Turner, very much PG or even G corporate umbrella. You cannot work with standards and practices like that in a company if you're going to push Shock TV. It's as simple as that. The two do not equate.
You're right, and you got to have full go with that. And Russo, there was some friction with Sullivan and some of those old schoolers. Russo did 3 months, went home, came back. You can't get across your stories that way.
Yeah, the whole thing is, it doesn't matter if there were 20 people in that production meeting at a Raw. Vince could stand up and go, 5 minutes, go, nope, this is my way. They'll go, okay. WCW, way too many cooks in the kitchen. And that was the worst part of the Attitude Era, was the fact that WCW buried itself.
Yeah, and Vince Russo becoming the world champion. But, I mean, that happened a year after Vince McMahon became the world champion.
It's so funny you mention that, because I interviewed David Arquette at the Booker T event over this last summer, and he even said himself he was glad Enzo Amore became Cruiserweight champion because he was no longer the worst champion in history. I looked right at him, I said, what about Vince Russo the same year? He goes, oh yeah.
That's what I want to mention. Yeah.
No, but to Russo's credit, it was typed out in USA Today the next day, and that's why they did it. They tried. It just didn't get enough attention like they thought it would.
Yeah, David Arquette was one thing, because he was a mainstream celebrity actor. Him winning the championship was good for USA Today buzz. Vince Russo booking himself as the world champion is, I think, the single biggest championship mistake that either company made in the Attitude Era. That's just my own personal opinion.
I think he just did it because he likes to talk on his podcast these days and say, I'm a former WCW champion. I think that's why he did it.
More power to him then, absolutely. Blake, go ahead. I'm sorry.
A lot of people believe, Vince Russo's ideas. Like the thing with I forget his name all of a sudden. Well, it's the one that's he was a stripper after a while. His mother on a pole match or something.
Judy Bagwell on a pole. Buff Bagwell.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. Plus,
that was horrendous.
A lot of people
believe, on a pole too.
Yeah. A lot of people I've talked to on here believe that Vince Russo was kind of a mold to help kill WCW and for WWE.
That's what
people said that for years. People said that for years.
But it was, in my opinion, it was already done. But anyway, Aaron, what do you got, man? This is a tough one for me.
I mean, I've pretty much covered most of the really negative stuff. I mean, for the most part, I think the undercards were pretty lousy because you had guys like DOA and the Godwins, and most of the matches weren't that good, but on the top, the stuff was very entertaining pretty consistently. So it is hard. I mean, I've pretty much run through everything,
How long?
I got one.
When did the Attitude Era go till technically?
Technically,
because are we going to include the invasion in WCW as the worst moment? Is one of the worst moments?
The roots of the Attitude Era really start when they started doing the work to shoot promos, which would be JR coming out there and talking about how Vince fired him. That was 96. And then Brian Pillman pulling the gun on Austin. And then, the Austin Bret Hart angle. But really,
in 97.
Survivor Series 97, when they aired the first Attitude Era commercial. And then many people would say officially it was when Vince, in December of 97, did that interview where he announced that we the WWF feel the fans are tired of having your intelligence insulted, and that was the official birth of the Attitude Era.
Well, it's funny. The WWE released a DVD recently, so 1997, The Rise of Attitude. So there you go.
But I mean, I guess I asked, when did it go till? What's the official?
WrestleMania
2001. In my opinion, almost into 2001, I think, or 2000 at least.
I think they officially have the era ending at WrestleMania 17 when WWE had bought WCW already. I think that week was the last one.
Austin turning heel was the symbolic end because Austin represented the Attitude Era and why everyone became so invested in it. And when Austin turned heel, you guys that have been following NoDQ videos, I've been very critical of that. And to me, that was just, I felt like the era was truly over at that point. It wasn't what we had seen for those several years. It was something different.
I got to go and nobody brought up.
Okay.
The ministry forms in 98.
Yeah.
So does the corporation. The ministry is formed to combat Vince McMahon and take the WWF from Mr. McMahon and the corporation. Then they merge.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. I mean, it felt like it didn't really make any sense. And,
it made no sense.
Some people hated the higher power angle. I mean, I like it because of the iconic line from Jim Ross, or Vince.
Oh, son of a yeah.
Oh, son of a Vince is like, it's me, Austin. It was me all along. King of the Ring was pretty lame though. I remember with the briefcase raising up every time Austin was trying to get it, and there was no
resolution to that whatsoever. Exactly.
Nothing. So that was pretty lame. But beyond that, I have very fond memories of the Attitude Era. I go back and watch those shows. They were very compelling shows from start to finish. You were never bored, even if the shows were illogical sometimes or train wrecks. They were still very entertaining, and they were making tons of money. The ratings were through the roof.
Well, it's funny because we were talking before we went on camera here. The death of WCW said it best. When a company is doing everything wrong, they do everything they can to make it right. When they're doing everything right, they think they can do no wrong.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. Here's another worse moment. And again, it led to some comical stuff, but Owen Hart joining the Nation of Domination. I really think that was the time that Owen should have got pushed up and finally been a consistent main eventer, if not, intercontinental range. I really think him joining the Nation, that really bothered me. I know we had some funny moments with Jason Sensation and the Nation and DX feuds, but to me, that if that didn't happen and Owen got escalated up into the card where he should have been, and again, we talked about maybe why he didn't because he was a Hart and the whole thing with Brett. But Owen might not ever had to do that Blue Blazer stuff. We can all say what if, but
it's been said repeatedly that the Blue Blazer was going to be the Intercontinental Champion at Over the Edge. It was in the books. It was going to happen. So maybe Owen becoming Intercontinental Champion again would have led him to the promised land at the end of the day and finally got him to the championship, the WWF Championship, before he walked away. Because his contract was supposed to expire in 2000 along with Brett's in WCW. So they were both, they said, 3 years, we're going to walk away. They both said that to each other. So,
but, if he didn't break Austin's neck, if he didn't get put in the Nation, he might have stayed a main player. We might not have ever got the Blue Blazer gimmick again, and he wouldn't have had to went up to the rafters. I guess that's what I'm saying. That was a bad moment, I think.
Yep. And he had that Lions Den match. Did you guys like the Lions Den match?
I liked everything he still did. I liked. They could have,
I liked the first one. The second one with Blackman was kind of hokey.
And Vince won one.
I forgot that.
Yeah, Vince beat Ken Shamrock in the Lions Den match.
Oh yeah,
that's it. I'm done. Good night.
That's a good
camera off.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I missed it. Yeah,
that's a good one to end it with.
Vince beat Ken Shamrock. I don't think so.
What are your guys' thoughts on Vince winning the WWF Championship?
For me, at the moment, it was like because we were so invested in the Vince Triple H feud, it felt like one of those like wow moments. But you look back, you go, Vince's father would have completely been
it's Vince's ego,
like losing his mind.
It is.
It was all about
just so we could say he was WWE champion. That was the only reason it was done.
It's the only reason.
I think it was bad because even if that belt was put on a top star that already had it, you took away a moment from someone else's legacy. Vince already has his legacy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Vince became when he became. It feels good, but. It's like the stuff with the women, at the time, we were all invested in it and entertained by it. But looking back, the women were treated like crap. It was very degrading to the women, the stuff that they were doing.
Thank God that era is over with now. I'll tell you
what.
A
lot of people would say, wrestling's way better now because the women are actually taken seriously and allowed to be able to go out there and have some
I agree with that. I think the women
honestly, personally don't have a real problem with the general presentation of the show. It's just the way certain people are booked now that make me cringe.
Yeah, you compare the Attitude Era to now. How is it better then? How is it better now? I think definitely the way the women are portrayed, it's far superior now. The wrestling, for the most part, I would say definitely wrestling-wise, it's way better now. But creatively and entertainment factor, Attitude Era. Attitude Era.
We got all-time greats out of that era. Females, Chyna, Lita, Trish, But because of the non-workers that were thrust into matches like Stacy Keibler's and Tori Wilson's,
BB,
it got all sexist,
Yep.
Really
Let's not forget Sable now. Remember Sable? She was the first one in Playboy, the pioneer in Playboy.
But Sable actually worked hard and tried to be a better athlete, to her credit.
Yeah.
I think some people carried her to make her look like she was credible because personally, to me, Sable couldn't wrestle because even I read an article on Luna Vachon. Luna Vachon had to carry her just to make her look good, and that's what.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's a valid point. That's definitely a valid point because
that's what happens now.
The WrestleMania match, she was in a tag team situation. But yeah, when she was in there with what's her name now? The woman who was in DX with X-Pac. I'm forgetting her name now.
Tori.
The other Tori. The other Tori.
That's
what was X-Pac and Tori's Christmas Story.
Tori Pac or whatever her name was.
Oh, and then that was actually pretty entertaining. Like X-Pac making fun of Kane's burned little wiener. That was.
Oh man, good night.
Oh yeah.
And then Jeff keeps clicking the off button. He's had enough of this. Oh, did he really click off?
I know it was funny also.
Jeff Meacham has left the building.
I left the building I couldn't even stand the Kane Wiener comment. I'm done. That's it.
Okay,
we could have done without that.
Yeah, we can go ahead and wrap this thing up now. I think we got some good discussion in here. Malik, it was a pleasure to have you on today. Anything you would like to plug, your social media or anything like that?
Yeah, it was an honor to be on. I'm the Professor Malik X. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And Aaron, at some point, maybe sometime, I would love to be on here again. It's fun.
Love to have you back,
I appreciate having you on. Hopefully, we can get you on at some point. We got a lot of people wanting to be on, though. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I understand. I understand. Yeah.
The list is just going on, and if we get an opportunity to have you on, we'll try to get you on again for another one. So, what's your social media page? The link?
Just Malik X on YouTube. I mean, I have a Facebook page. It's Malik Shabazz, and I have a Twitter. It's at Big Easy or at Nubian Master.
Okay, cool.
We'll have to link people in the comments.
Yeah, we'll have them in the comments for those.
Okay.
And then, of course, you can follow Jeff at _Jeff Meacham. You can talk with him about wrestling, maybe try to stump him because he's such a great trivia expert. And then, of course, Virtue at NoDQ _Virtue. You can check out his column. Also, in the description box, I'll have a link to that Attitude Era column for those of you that want to check that out and check out Virtue's other columns. And you guys can find me at Aaron Rift on all social media platforms except for MySpace. MySpace, unfortunately, I'm not on there anymore, but I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and YouTube. And I think that's it. So that'll wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. Leave a comment. Let us know your favorite bad Attitude Era moments or least favorite Attitude Era moments, whatever you prefer.
Bad attitude.
There's always some we forget. So
I'm sure there's plenty. Some that are so bad we had to just block them out of our memory that we totally forgot about them. So leave a comment. Let us know what you think, and we will see you guys next time.